Welcome everybody to the final design public information center for the Pennsauken Merchantville multi-use trail. My name is Vittorio Anapetti. I'm the project manager for the project with McCormick Taylor. We are the design consultant that was selected by Pennsauken under the design assistance program with NJDOT. This project is part of the Transportation Alternatives Program, which is a federally funded program administered through NJDOT and the MPOs. And again, we were selected under another grant through local aid under the design assistance program. With me tonight is our project engineer, Dave Verdia, and he'll go into the details of the scope of the project and share the graphic. It was also posted on the township website if you want to be able to, download that and zoom in on your own and follow along. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dave.
Thank you. I am going to turn my video off here so we have a bit of a clean recording, but my name is Dave Verdia. I work at McCormick Taylor and I've been providing design services for this project since we started out our preliminary engineering phase. So Vittorio kind of hit on some of the background info of this project. It was part of a Transportation Alternatives Program, or TAP grant, and the grant was to extend the Merchantville Trail 0.3 miles east of Cove Road, basically to the NJ Transit bridge over there. Design was funded through the TAP Design Assistance Program, which is how we ended up on this project. The grant was federal funding for construction of about $750,000, which was awarded in 2015. Between approvals and discussions, or negotiations rather, we really got started on design for this, got our surveyors out there around late 2018 or 2019. We held our first public information center for the preliminary engineering phase in August 2019, and we are currently wrapping up our final design phase, getting documentation in sometime this fall, so the project can be advertised and bid, or the project will be submitted to NJDOT local aid, who administers the grant. We'll also need to get Federal Highway Administration approval for construction or authorization, and then we will be able to advertise the project. So best estimate, you can expect construction in the summer of 2022. The goals of this project are to increase bicycling and walking in Pennsauken as well as Merchantville, to create a safer walking and bicycling environment with off-road facilities for them. And specifically to this project, it's to repurpose vacant railroad property for recreation as well as transportation. And I'll note that we expect construction to take about 4 to 6 months, depending on things like weather and site conditions. So they'll hopefully break ground in the summer of 2022 after the winter thaw, and be done hopefully by the end of that year. Included in the project is a 12-foot wide paved multi-use path to accommodate bicyclists and pedestrians, again extending across Cove Road from the existing terminus of the Merchantville Trail. The crossing at Cove Road will consist of what are called rectangular rapid flashing beacons, the pedestrian flashers, as well as push buttons. Also along Cove Road will be sidewalk extensions, ADA curb ramps, crosswalks, and pavement markings. This project will clear a lot of the existing site, remove and dispose of a lot of the materials, including railroad ties. There will be archaeological monitoring during construction to kind of document the existing conditions of the railroad, like the profile and alignments for historical purposes. The project will install pedestrian-oriented lighting. These will be spaced at 60 feet along the trail. It will match the lighting proposed for the Merchantville side of the trail, which finished up a lighting feasibility study recently. These lights are a pendant style. They aren't post-top kind of lantern style. They have a mast arm. They will be mounted at a 12-foot height with about a 2-foot long decorative mast arm that is pretty intricate. The last thing is the stormwater infiltration swales down here. which are going to be required for stormwater recharge from the added impervious surface from the trail. In addition to the kind of foundation, which is the trail, we are also installing a lot of linear park amenities, including a sidewalk connection to Norwood Ave, shade trees and landscaping, rest areas spaced at about 300 to 400 feet, recycling and trash receptacles at those rest areas, pet waste stations. There is some decorative 3-rail white vinyl fencing that will protect the trail from maybe errant vehicles. And then along some of the commercial properties, we are proposing a chain link fencing to prevent kind of material loading and storage, or even just parking on the trail. And I'll walk through each of these in the next few slides. So this is the graphic that was posted online. If you have an extra screen, or are you calling in and you'd like to follow along, you can go to the Pennsauken Township website, click on News, scroll to our Virtual Public Information Center, click on that, and then click on the Rails to Trails project link, and this display will come up in the full version. So once again, that's the Pennsauken Township website, click on News, scroll to our Virtual Public Info Center, dated August 11th, and then click on the Rails to Trails project link. So as we wrapped up our preliminary engineering phase, we coordinated with Camden County, who recommended that we hardwire the pedestrian flashing beacon and install conduit going across that street, so it's more reliable hardware compared to the solar panels that were proposed initially. They requested we revise the crosswalk to a continental style, which is their preferred crosswalk, and you can see that over here. And then they also asked for additional warning signage in advance of the trail crossing a little bit further down Cove Road, along with these pavement markings for cars approaching. There was a question at the last Public Information Center about turning vehicles from Chestnut Avenue and East Chestnut Avenue, whether they'd be able to see the flashers in time to stop for a pedestrian, and don't really have any concerns with that because these movements are going to be left-turning vehicles. The driver making a left is going to have to look both ways, so they will have to face that flashing beacon, which will be in their sight line when they make that move. The real concern would be the right turns, where the driver is looking the opposite way from a crosswalk. So with only these left turns from the side streets, there shouldn't be any type of issue there. We're proposing the white vinyl fence along here to prevent parking on the trail and maybe errant vehicles. There are also bollards to prevent vehicles from getting onto the trail. You can see here our stormwater infiltration swales. Another thing we did or completed during our final design phase was the landscape design. A lot of the existing larger trees on the site are going to remain in place, and the shade trees that will be planted are sort of to fill kind of that gap and create a visual buffer for the residential properties along the trail along Rudder Row Ave here. We fielded a question in advance of this meeting about potentially leaving some of the rails in place as like a historical marker. And our approach here to this intersection, this curve, is really to provide a better crossing angle for the trail, but it also gives us an opportunity to leave some rails in place there at the entrance to the trail, really. So moving on further to the east along the trail, we have our white vinyl fencing again to prevent any parking or loading on the trail. And then along the property lines is proposed chain link fencing, which will be 6 feet high compared to the 4 foot high barn style white vinyl fencing. And this in a lot of areas is just to replace kind of damaged sections of existing fence, as well as place fence along those commercial properties where cars technically would be able to drive onto the trail, so that would prevent that. There was a question at our last Public Information Center about adding parking for this trail, but as part of this grant, we could not spend the funds to accommodate motorized travel. So that is out of the question, but in this kind of space here, we did leave it somewhat vacant. So there is plenty of parking along Chestnut, and if the township were to see a need, if there was a parking issue and the township saw a need to add parking, that space is kind of preserved with our project. Continuing on, we end here in a turnaround similar to the existing turnaround at Cove Road, but we do expect to eventually have a connection coming in here. So our project will set it up there so it can kind of wait for that future extension. So kind of the last slide I'll touch on is future extensions of the trail. The Camden County and DVRPC bicycling and multi-use trails plan cited considering extending the trail out to the Burlington County line. You can see our limits of our project here stopping right before this NJ Transit bridge, and then any future extensions would go eastward. So that is really it for our project. I guess before opening up for kind of our open forum and question and answer, I believe we have someone from Rails to Trails here that wanted to plug a quick event. So I am going to unmute your microphone, Anya, if you'd like to say anything.
Hi, yes, this is Anya Soretsky with Rails to Trails Conservancy. So we are hosting an event along with the Circuit Trails Camden County Action Team. It is on August 26th from 5:30 to 8. It's called Trail Fun Night. So we will be on the Merchantville bike path, so the existing segment of trail, and we will have refreshments, there'll be games, we'll be taking a bike ride and or a walk along the trail, up to you, and we'll have some members of various community organizations there to give out information, and we'll be talking more about the larger plans for this trail and how it'll connect to the larger network of trails called the Circuit Trails. So I hope you all can make it, and I can hopefully I can put the registration link in the chat. Let me see. Yes, that works. So please RSVP there if you can make it. I'll also, if it's okay, just put a link to the Camden County Action Team, our webpage. So if you're interested in getting involved in advocacy around this larger trail project, you can get more information and sign up for our mailing list there.
All right, thank you. Yeah, a lot of times with these Rails to Trails project, you know, once you extend the next quarter mile, kind of the push for extending even further begins. So thank you, Anya.
Sure thing. Thanks for letting me share this information.
Thank you.
Cool.
So now, if anybody else has questions, you can either raise your hand or put something in the chat. We'll try to get to your question. I saw, George, you had said something in the chat that you had a question, so I allowed your mic here. I think you just have to unmute on your end now. Go ahead.
It's not.
George. Yeah,
Hold on.
I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry. It still looks like it's muted. George Cook, I'm the owner of the Soundplex. We're right on Rudder Row Avenue. It's actually in that schematic large commercial property. We've kind of repurposed it to a kind of a arts and music complex, kind of a community center. Still working with the township on some certain things that we have kind of, pending. But from all intents and purposes, it's going to be really great for the community. And this trail is definitely win-win for both us and the community itself. So we would welcome access on our back property. We would like to really landscape it accordingly. And my question is, in lieu of a chain link fence, and we would even fund it, would it be possible for us, because it's a brick building, to build a kind of a partial wall so that way no one parks on the trail? I understand that because we do have a back lot that we have parking, but we would like kind of a brick wall or some type of landscaped wall that would be appropriate for the property, but would also a gateway into the back of our building, because it's kind of a gateway to the arts, and we think it's going to be very advantageous for folks along the trail, and even in the future when this ties into Burlington County, to use that trail to access our property. And we foresee a lot of great events here, and some of the folks locally have seen it, and some of the township officials have seen it as well. Actually, I'm having a meeting with a bunch of them tomorrow at the place. But is it possible to look at that fence on the back of our property and alter that in some case with with the township approval, or is that kind of written in stone that it's got to be a 6-foot chain link fence?
No, that's certainly, I know we had spoke before, we talked
Yes.
about potentially leaving a gate there, but yeah, I mean, if that's something that you guys are willing to invest in on your own property, and we have township approval, that's something I think we could accommodate. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you very much. And I think my only other question was the lot that sits on the other side of the trail from us. We're talking to them about some additional parking for our complex. If they are okay with it and the township's okay with it, to have a gate on that side as well, so that way people can use that opening or that gate and our opening as a access to our complex.
Okay. Yeah, that would be something, again, I guess, to confirm with the township what their plans are. But
okay, great.
Thank you.
This looks great, guys, and I appreciate everything, and I'll do everything I can to kind of spearhead things. I'm definitely going to go to that funding event, Anya, so I'll definitely be there. But looking forward to this thing getting built and done, because I think it's going to be great for the community as well as our place. And I think people are really going to enjoy what we bring to the table.
Thank you. Appreciate your support for the project.
No problem. You're welcome.
Again, anyone else, if they have any questions, feel free to raise your hand and we will unmute you. Go ahead and ask your question, or you can put it in the chat.
So we've got a raised hand from Tim Brill. Tim, I just unmuted you there.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. The presentation looks really nice. I'm looking forward to seeing this segment of the trail completed. If folks want to continue walking or bicycling further to the east, are there any plans in the works to make a connection, assuming we don't use the existing bridge over the Atlantic City rail line? Is there an easy way to get back to Maple Avenue or other connections in the neighborhood?
Yeah, I think
we were both waiting for each other to respond.
I think the abutting property there, right at the bridge, is owned by the Merchantville Pennsauken Water Commission. So there is a possibility, I want to say it was discussed early in the project, of them kind of dedicating some of their right of way to provide a connection to Bethel Ave and head down there. But I don't have any knowledge of any future plans, future connections.
So we do have the connection at Norwood, just with a sidewalk there. But I think the long-term plan from the feasibility study that was completed for this is to eventually extend it further down to Union Ave and then Kings Highway, I think, or to the Maple Shade border, I believe.
Yeah, I'm aware of those plans, but they may be a few years away. And that brings up the issue of the trail with active rail that may or may not be easy to accommodate here. But no, the plans as presented look like a great next step.
Thank you. Any other questions from anyone? Again, this presentation will be posted. It's being recorded. We'll post it on the township's website with a link so that anyone can watch it in the future. And our contact information is here. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to Dave or myself, and we'll try to get you guys the answers. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening. Appreciate you following along on the project.